A joyous and gracious Merry Christmas to each and every one of you. Welcome to our sanctuary for our early service here on Christmas Eve with a family focus. I'm thrilled that you are here. Hope that you will be comfortable in the house of the Lord and seek me out if you have any questions about your spiritual journey. I'll be available after the service and will be delighted to visit with you. I was watching as we sang the first hymn. And Roger Gates, I think you probably rate as the longest, oldest relationship I have. Roger and his family are our guests tonight. We grew up in the Ridgely United Methodist Church together, and we're in Christmas Eve services back in the 70s and 80s, and so it's great to have you and your wife with us here for our service tonight, as it is each of you. As I welcome you to the sanctuary, I draw your attention to the bottom of the worship order. It says that we are collecting a retiring offering. That does not mean I'm finished with my ministry yet. We take it as we retire from the sanctuary. It goes to the Methodist Children's Home in Waco. We're joining with churches all across the South Central jurisdiction in collecting this offering here at the Christmas season. So when we take up the offering, in the passing of the plates, that's for the ministries of this church. But when you leave, there are baskets by each door for the Methodist home, and the ushers have a brochure with an envelope if you are interested in having one. If you'd like to read about the Methodist home, just lift your hand, and they will be glad to bring one to you. But they have to know where you are, so if you want a brochure, raise your hand. Sunday, we are on the regular schedule here between Christmas and New Year. The only change is there will be no 8:45 a.m. communion. Communion will be bumped into the 9 o'clock service for the last Sunday of the month, just as it always is for the first Sunday of the month. So I think that's all that I need to share with you. I'm just thrilled that you're here, and it wouldn't be Christmas without singing some of the great carols. So we've got two verses of two great hymns. Let's stand up and enjoy singing.
Peace on earth and mercy. time for our children's time together, so all the boys and girls, come on down. Come sit right up here in the front. We're going to do something a little fun and crazy. We're called this our Nativity Pop-Up Drama. Let's see, there should be a couple more kids behind me somewhere. Is Megan back there? Is she behind me anywhere? Oh, here come some kids. Oh, wonderful. Oh, you guys are going to be great at this. Let's see, Sebastian, you want to join us? Yes, Sebastian. Jack, you want to join us? Ah, Jack. Okay, Catherine, Helena, you want to join us?
Helena, please.
You don't have to worry. It's really simple and easy.
Megan's coming.
Yes, Megan. Thank you. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think we have enough to do this part. Oh, yes. Thank you. And we may have a couple extra people then. Okay. So if you're in 3rd through 5th grade, why don't you stand up right over here, and Mr. Ron's going to hand you a little part to play. Okay? Get your part. And then as soon as you have your part, you can just sit on the blue side over here, on the blue cushion. Perfect. Joseph, good. An angel. Mary, who wants to be Mary? You want to be Mary? Okay, come on. You need an innkeeper? You want to be an innkeeper? Will you be the innkeeper? Okay, awesome. All right. And then, oh, yeah. Megan, do you want to be an animal or a wise man? Okay, she wants to be a wise man. Here you go. There's your gift. There's your mask. And would you like to be an animal or a wise? Yes? Okay. Yeah. And you could do it too with her? That'd be awesome. All right, here's another one. Here's another one. And we have a donkey, right? Okay, we're going to make it work. Okay, here we go. All right, so I'm going to read along, and you guys are just going to act out what I say as we go along. So when it's not your turn, you're going to sit on the blue side. So you guys can go on that blue side. How about that over there? Just sit on the blue cushion. Okay, here we go. An angel appeared. Come up to the center. To both Mary and Joseph. Everybody in the room, let's cheer loudly as Mary and Joseph enter the room. Let's go, Mary. Come on, Mary. Come on, Joseph. Right up there. Now watch as Mary and Joseph bow and wave to the crowd. Watch as Mary and Joseph bow and wave to the crowd. Okay, very good. Now watch as the angel flies around the room. Well, maybe our angel's just walking, but that's okay. Now watch as the angel waves his arms around and moves his mouth up and down. The angel is telling Mary and Joseph they're going to have a baby, and the baby is Jesus, and the angel is happy. Watch as Mary and Joseph move their masks and make surprised faces. Watch as Mary and Joseph move their mask and make a scared face. Oh. Watch as they give the angel a high five once they realize this is God's promise. Hear the angel say, "See you later," and wave goodbye. Then the angel goes away. The Roman emperor declared that everyone needed to go to their hometown to be counted. Mary and Joseph have to travel over 80 miles away. Watch as Mary and Joseph begin to walk all around the center. Watch as a donkey enters the room for Mary to ride. Maybe they can just walk side by side. Watch as Mary, the donkey, and Joseph take the long trip. Mary and Joseph and the donkey keep going day after day. Watch them walk up the hill and down the hill, and up the hill and down the hill. And finally, they arrive in Bethlehem. There's a sign, "Bethlehem, you are here." Watch as Mary and Joseph come back to the center with the donkey. Mary pats her belly and makes a worried face. Let's see your worried face. Oh. She needs to rest before the baby comes. Watch as Joseph moves his mask and makes a scared face. Oh. What to do? Watch if Joseph knocks on a door and the innkeeper pretends to open the door and wave. Who's our innkeeper? All right, right over there. All right, Joseph, Watch as you knock on the door. Come on over. And the innkeeper opens the pretend door and waves. Now listen as Joseph yells, "Do you have any rooms?"
Do you have any rooms?
Listen as the innkeeper yells, "Sorry, not today." Joseph goes back to the center to tell Mary, and he gives her a thumbs down because there's no place to stay. Watch as Mary and Joseph move their masks and make sad faces. Aww. The innkeeper has an idea. Watch the innkeeper show an excited face. The innkeeper walks over to Mary and Joseph and points all around and yells, "You can stay here." The innkeeper is offering his stable for the night. Watch as Mary and Joseph give the innkeeper a fist bump and a thumbs up. Listen as they yell, "Thank you," when the innkeeper walks away.
Thank you. Thank you.
Let's see, we don't have any animals, right? Okay. Watch as Mary comes to the center. That night, baby Jesus is born. Here's baby Jesus. Paper baby Jesus. Watch as baby Jesus is loved by Mary in her arms. Later that night, the kings come to visit baby Jesus and bring him gifts. Let's go, kings. Watch as the wise men offer their gifts to the baby one at a time. Watch as Mary and Joseph give the kings a thumbs up and say thank you. And now, watch as all the kings, the innkeeper, angel, Mary, and Joseph come back to the center to stand up and sing Silent Night, holding their tiny candles. All right, you guys all face this way. You can put your mask down, or you can hold it, either way. Now watch as our actors bow and the congregation roars. Okay, so good. You guys come this way, bring all your things right over here, and we have a little Christmas Eve treat for you.
My candle is running out of battery. Hers was
Great job, kids. Thank you, Sharon, Ron, and all that are involved. May we be in prayer as we prepare to share our gifts, tithes, and offerings tonight. Loving God, I thank you for the church, where the joy of Christmas is shared and celebrated better than any place on earth. And I thank you for our church, our family, where we grow as a family and are all raised more into your likeness through the years of all we experience here. And thank you for generosity that is a part of that growing experience, where we are called out of ourselves to reflect on what the discipline of sacrificial giving can mean for our growth and for all the neat things that are the results of the sacrificial giving that we give right here and far beyond. So accept these gifts, our tithes and offerings for this church now and for the Methodist Children's Home later, as one of many ways we say Merry Christmas to you. Thank you for Jesus, and in his name, amen.
King of love and light,
Tonight, angels far and near sing tender lullabies. Well-worn fabric, full of years, holds in the warmth of parental love. Animals and shepherds crowd in tight, glowing with adoration, while a muffled cry squeezes out to greet the world. Tonight, we give thanks for every child among us. Each new birth, regardless of circumstances, reminds us of the preciousness of life, the potential of tomorrow, the promise of God. On this Christmas Eve, we light the Christ candle for the child King, the infant Redeemer, the lowly Lord, and now we know he is born and nothing will ever be the same.
Thank you, Alicia Owen. Have any of you ever celebrated Christmas in Florida before, South Florida? Well, you will this year, right here in the state of Texas. 3 days in a row of incredibly warm weather, but we're going to have a festive spirit as if though the gentle snow were falling outside as God's grace falls on us like gentle snowflakes. Heard a preacher on the internet while worshiping online a few weeks ago ask the congregation to put their hand over their watch, and don't look at it. Put your hand over your watch. And I'm not going to ask you to do that because in the day of cell phones, and this was an older pastor, a lot of people don't wear a watch anymore, but I still do. And when he asked the people to put their hand over their watch, he said, now think, does your watch have numbers on it? Or Roman numerals, or slashes, or other designs for numbers? And it's amazing about how many of us couldn't answer that. The device we look at every day and multiple times every day, we're not that familiar with. The point of it was, sometimes things in life become so familiar or accustomed to us that we don't see some of the depth or the detail or the meaning of those things. And that can be true of the manger scene that I want to share with you for a few minutes tonight. And before I do that, I want to talk about zooming in. Many of you are guests tonight, so let me fill you in briefly. My oldest son is a senior this year at the University of Evansville, which is a United Methodist college in Evansville, Indiana, where he's been studying for the last 3.5 years. He'll graduate in May. And in November, mid-November this year, I used my last days of vacation to go see him perform in a show because he's a theater major in performing arts, and to celebrate his 22nd birthday. And so I rode the train from here to St. Louis and rented a car and drove over and spent some time with Luke in Evansville, and we had a great time. They have a new Logan's Roadhouse, believe it or not, that has opened up in Evansville, Indiana, where everything closes about 9 o'clock at night, and it's open till midnight. And there are no laws against that. They may be pondering that, but we went out and just had a great time. When I finished there, I turned the car back in St. Louis and went on to Chicago to see friends for a couple of days, do some shopping, and while I was there, the Christmas tree was up in Union Station, and I took a picture of it. I think about cameras. When I was a little boy, my dad took an Instamatic Kodak camera with us on vacation, and he got frustrated that the pictures were so distant and small when we got home. So he invested in a big professional camera. It was in a big case. It was like an extra piece of luggage, and it had a big lens on it and all these dials on the camera, and you could crop and zoom in, zoom out. Even had a telephoto lens that was several pounds in weight that was a screw-in attachment. Nowadays, we take pictures on our cell phones, and they're good pictures. And you can do things that the old big cameras used to do right on your cell phone, and can email them and text them, do all kinds of things with your photos. So I took a picture of the grand Christmas tree there in the Grand Hall of Chicago Union Station. But as I looked at the picture I took, if you weren't familiar with railroads, you wouldn't understand what the decorations were. So I zoomed in and took a second picture of the Christmas tree. And there you can begin to see Mopac, Rock Island, Southern Pacific Daylight, New York Central, all of the great railroads and the trains that had served this country for so many years, celebrated on the great Christmas tree in the Great Hall. I want us to do the same thing with the manger scene tonight. What do you see when you see the manger scene? I've seen some beautiful manger scenes this year as outdoor Christmas decorations. And we see them in church. We've had a big one earlier that was out involving children's ministry. We had the ceramic one here on the altar tonight. But just take a look at some manger scenes, just some sample photos that we have for you tonight. As you watch the varied expressions, some of them are functional, some of them are artistic. What do you see? It's like that watch. What do you see when you look at the manger and the characters that are there? Tonight on Christmas Eve, I want to lift up 3 theological images for us as we look upon the manger. The first image I'd like to suggest tonight, when I see that and zoom in and focus on it, is I see a worship service. The first ever worship service involving Jesus Christ, Emmanuel, God with us, the Messiah, the presence of the Christian church. Yes, there's been worship of all kinds for many years prior to the coming of Jesus. The Jews had worship central to a part of their great culture. But here we see worship where Jesus Christ, even as an infant, is adored and revered, and all of the emotions of worship are present. The gratitude for what God has done in a fresh, exciting, and creative new way. Worship brings us inspiration of heart as the emotional side of the Holy Spirit moves us and touches us and leads us and inspires us, moves us forward in life, opening new doors ahead of us, closing doors behind us. We have inspiration of heart. We also have engagement of the mind. One of the great challenges of religion is not to tell people what to think, but rather move to the spiritual so that people can learn how to think spiritually, biblically, theologically, to know who they are, what they believe, why, where they've been, to tell the story of who they are. So in addition to inspiration of the heart, worship involves engagement of the mind. And it was a beautiful scene there that first night as worship took place and people were drawn there from other places and all walks of life, all for the common goal of sharing in what God had done through Christ. We are living in a culture where the emphasis and the importance and the value of worship is being lost. Fewer Americans are worshiping on a regular basis here as we end the year 2019 than ever before in the history of our nation. We hear that we just don't have time. We hear that we're just too busy. We hear things like the church is old and institutional and slow to change. The church can be very judgmental. The church is filled with hypocrites. The church doesn't reach me. I just don't see any relevance. I can be a good person without going to church. And while all of those things had varying degrees of truths in them, we're missing the value and the relevance of church in terms of the things I've listed, the gratitude, the inspiration of heart and mind, but it also brings us a perspective on life that no other experience can do. Whenever I seem to get frustrated by what the Democrats and the Republicans are doing, certain personalities, whether it's Pelosi or McConnell or Trump or whomever else it may be, or when I get frustrated about what the United Methodist denomination is doing or not doing, or frustrations with raising kids, or challenges that I face in my pastoral ministry, it is amazing the perspective I find from being in church with folk like you, who just in our relationship with each other and our engagement illumine me to see new perspectives on life, challenges, frustrations that I would never think of living in a vacuum by myself. And it's interesting that the tribalistic divisiveness, the impatience, the rudeness, the condemnation sweeping across our culture is in harmony with the lack of emphasis on worship. So as I celebrate Christmas this year, I want to lift up the value of our experience and the balance that worship can bring to our lives as part of the beauty of the giftedness of knowing God through Christ. If we zoom in a little further, the next thing we might see is that of family. There's the baby Jesus with Mary and Joseph. It's a family setting, and the beginning of that family with the new baby. The Christian faith has always been strong on family and family values. Family has been the centerpiece of great cultures. You show me a culture that has a strong family unit, and in response, we shall see a culture that is thriving and healthy with the things that edify the human race and bring excellence out in us. But the world, the secular world, and even religion can often, out of good motives, kind of stereotype what a family should be like. It's like in our culture sometimes I see a stereotype American family being white, Anglo-Saxon, Catholic, Protestant, with a mom and a dad and 2.35 children, to say that playfully, statistically. The boy might be a little older, and then the daughter might be younger, maybe about 7 and 4 years old, and that just seems like the model family, and that's the beautiful family celebrating Christmas. But the great thing about Jesus is this is good news for all the people. All the people, and all means all. And that means the family gets redefined. There are families that have never been blessed with children who are great families where great things occur. There are families that have a whole lot of kids. Sometimes mom and dad shake their heads and wonder why they had so many. They're expensive and demanding, but they are great families. There are families that have mom and dad at home, but there are families where the grandparents are involved in raising children. Aunts and uncles, adoptive children. There are families where a woman perhaps never married and is now taking care of her mother, but they become a family. You can describe every type of situation in life where individuals in our struggle to become who we are color outside the lines of the stereotype in beautiful ways to be families. Some of the best parenting that goes on comes in some of the most challenged environments. I picked up the phone after our Tasty Tunes and Treats the other night, leaving the church, and called a single mom. They'd been around the church all day. We'd had the big children's program that morning. The kids were tired. Mom was tired. They acted up. She had to take them out. There was a fuss in the foyer. And they finally got in the car, and I just called her and told her what a great and inspiring mom she was, how proud of her I am, and if I could ever be her friend. I've walked a little bit of where she's walked, and that's the beauty of understanding what Christ does to broaden the family unit. In fact, even if you find yourself in a stage of life where there's a little too little family around you, as we celebrate Christmas, when you connect with God through Jesus Christ, you become a great member of God's family, and there is intimacy available in your relationship, and draw value from your relationship and find ways to celebrate through counting your blessings, helping others, enjoying solitude, whatever it may be, because you are a part of the family of God. Also know that families will go through stages and changes, as mine is and are. And God will find new ways of inventing and creating new experiences in the changing stages of life. This year, I don't have Christmas on Christmas. I've already had Christmas. My sister and her family could come in and be with my mom. I could have both our boys, and we did it yesterday, and we had a great time. Now, I admit it's weird. It was weird to leave on a Monday with Christmas Eve on Tuesday, and then what's going to happen Christmas Day, but it all works out. As long as you stay close to the Spirit will work in all ages and stages. And also remember, there is dysfunction in most families, if not all of them. In varying degrees, dysfunction is a part of our life. Think about it. There are broken homes. There are abusive homes. There are homes with addictions. There are homes where kids are in trouble. There are homes where the parent can't keep a job. There are homes where the kids are in trouble at school. We have the temptation of drugs and alcohol and pornography. Dysfunction is much more common. Sometimes we go to church and look around and we think that everybody's got it all together. Guess what, folks? None of us do. That's just a part of life. And the church and the birth of Jesus doesn't become a haven for the perfect and the righteous. It's a safe place for those of us who live in the dysfunction and try to find our way. Have a place to come and be a part of a family of other followers of Christ that have the same or very similar problems. And just read the Bible. Go back to Adam and Eve. Do you not think there was a little dysfunction in that? We played with that the other day on a Sunday, and I announced that it was the first ever St. John the Apostle, It's the Woman's Fault Sunday, after Adam blamed Eve. And it went over that Sunday about like it just did then, you know. But it's true, there was dysfunction in that, and the Lord had to deal with Adam and Eve. I talked Sunday about Joseph, not the Joseph, the father of Jesus, but the Joseph in the story of Genesis. His brothers lied about him. They misrepresented him. They tried to kill him. They sold him into slavery. There is dysfunction there. Think about the story of Rachel and Leah and the sneaking around of that story. Don't have time to go into the details on Christmas Eve. Think about David and Bathsheba. The dysfunction is a part of the mystery of life, and it's why we need our faith. It's why we need Christ. And this is a safe place to come. And there is no challenge or problem that you can't talk to your trusted friends and your pastor about in healthy and constructive ways. And last, as we zoom in very close, the center of the worship, the center of the family unit, is that of the baby Jesus himself. Our little ceramic one has appeared in the little manger here on the communion rail altar. It all centers in Jesus Christ. We have so many voices vying for our attention, our allegiance, our loyalty, our time, our money, our values, our emotions. We have to remember the very first commandment, thou shalt have no other gods before me, is reinforced at Christmas in that Jesus is the center of it all. And when Jesus is centered in all, relationship takes a hold of us. Not legalism, not religion, not judgment, not all of its rules, not even all of its details. We find relationship. And it's that relationship that separates Christianity from every other religious expression that the world has ever known. I don't like to preach about people going to hell when you die if you don't sign on with Jesus. I just think that is a missed opportunity to talk about the quality of life that we find when we are close to Jesus and He is the center of our life. Because in this family unit, there will be disagreement. There will be brokenness and separation. And that separation can be catastrophic at times. But when the relationship centers on the one in the manger, the old saying, love wears everything out, begins to take hold. And it's amazing the perspective and the healing and the forgiveness that comes within Jesus being the center of that family. It's just like having kids, and you've heard me say this before. There's something about being a mom or a dad that changes us forever. That child is demanding. It requires a whole new set of priorities. That child will require things in us that we wouldn't do, couldn't do, or have never done for anything or anyone else. It changes our routine, and it becomes a sacrificial work of love. Oh, but the relationship that comes from that investment is life-changing. And there is no more precious gift in our life than our children. We bring them along, and they bring us along. And so it will be with our faith when we connect in the family and worship with the centerpiece, with His Jesus. This baby will bring the best out in us like nothing else and help us be more Christ-like. So Merry Christmas to each and every one of you. Wherever you are, wherever you're from, whatever your circumstances are, you are a part of the family of God. You have come to worship. Let that continue, and let Jesus be the center, and may your Christmas be spiritually engaging of mind and heart and relationship. Merry Christmas. Amen. Go Tell It on the Mountain is going to be our hymn. Are we going to stand up for it? I think we should. Thank you for Christmas. Thank you for Christmas Eve. Thank you for church and faith and worship. Thank you for family. Thank you for Jesus at the center. As the decorations begin to fall and come down as early as Thursday, remind us, O God, spiritually that this is only the beginning of what can happen when we engage with you in this fresh new relationship and allow you to change us and grow us and fit us for heaven to live with thee there. Amen.